Bhagavantam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namami. First of all, I offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, and I offer my gratitude to all the members present over here online for giving me an opportunity to cogitate on a very solemn topic, that is Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga. I hope it is audible. It is audible.
Yes, Maharaj. Everything is fine.
Okay. Okay. So I offer my namaskars and gratitude to all of you. The topic which we have today is Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga. This is an authentic and detailed and analytical life of or biography of Sri Ramakrishna. It was written by Swami Saradananda, a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. This book is very special in the history of Ramakrishna Vivekananda literature. Not just that, it is also a very precious book in the history of the world, in the history of all world thinkers. Sri Ramakrishna is occupying a very special position where he is completely a very important personality in today's socio-economic world, where the more we discuss about Sri Ramakrishna, more we come to the significance of Sri Ramakrishna. This book, Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, was written originally in Bengali, but later on it has been translated into English, and Swami Jagadananda translated the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga for the first time in English, and later on it was again translated into English in a different way recently by Swami Chetanananda, who named the book as Sri Ramakrishna and His Divine Play. So in this way, the book is available in more than its original version in Bengali. It is available in English and also in different other languages. In today's discussion, we will gradually see the history of how the book came into being. So today, before going into the book, we will have a discussion on how did this book, Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga by Swami Saradananda, come into being. Before we go into the book, we must remember that the world, especially the history of India, is made up of different spiritual personalities who have appeared in the Indian scenario, and they have molded the entire Indian way of life in a very new way with their advent. And not only that, they have also turned and upturned and has revived and remolded the thought current of the entire world as well. So whenever we are going into the life of any great personality in India, it is not just a spiritual personality, but his life is very important because it is molding the different facets of human existence. The life of Sri Rama has been depicted in Valmiki's Ramayana. Sri Krishna's life has been depicted in both in the Mahabharata as well as the Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana. And later on, the other great spiritual luminaries who are commonly known as avatars. Avatar is a concept where a personality emerges in the scenario in the human society with such intense spiritual energy and such special message for the world that he is considered as a direct manifestation of God Himself by many. However, whether we regard this kind of great personalities as incarnations of God or not, but their life is still meaningful for each and every person because they are commonly known in a different way as also Yuga Avataras. Yuga Avatara, the concept of Yuga Avatara means one who sets the tone for the new age. So, with the advent of a Yuga Avatar, a new age begins, and his message will mold that very age. So, as Arnold Toynbee and others have said, that Swami Vivekananda and also Sri Ramakrishna has been major pivotal personalities who have molded the world in the modern times. So, their life and their message is very important. So the history of India is full of such great spiritual luminaries who have appeared again and again. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita says that Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. So the divine personality or the personality with a special message, special solution for the crisis which is there in the present world appears again and again in this Indian scenario. It started with, say, in the recorded history, we find many great personalities, but at least if we start from Sri Rama, then Sri Krishna, then Buddha, then Sri Chaitanya, before him Sri Shankaracharya, and Sri Chaitanya, and followed by him Sri Ramakrishna, plays a very important role in molding the Indian history as well as the world history. So they are known as, and so their life, as it has been depicted in Ramayana or in the Bhagavatam, is full of great glories of the Lord incarnate as Sri Krishna or as Sri Rama. But the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga is very special in the sense that the writer has seen Sri Ramakrishna day and night for many years, and he is writing a book in an age which is completely devoted to very authentic presentation and very and to truth and veracity, and there is no scope for imagination or there is no scope for any kind of mind-boggling incorporations into the life of Sri Ramakrishna written by Swami Saradananda in the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga. So the age of Ramayana, the age of Mahabharata or the age of Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana, and the age in which Swami Saradananda is writing about Sri Ramakrishna in his Leela Prasanga is quite different. And so none of them, like Valmiki, had a very small contact with Sri Rama in his physical lifetime. And Vyasa also has a very small interaction directly with Sri Krishna. But in case of Swami Saradananda, we find that he has greatly come into contact with Sri Ramakrishna. And he has all the intricate details which he has presented in his book, the Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga. So it is highly authentic, highly detailed, and it covers the entire facet and all the facets of the life of Sri Ramakrishna, not just his divine facet, not just his facet as the perfect being, but also his different facets of how he was as a human being, how there was a combination of the divine and the human into one personality. This has been rightly pointed out by Swami Saradananda. Now, if we just have a historical account of how the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga came into being. So much before the Lilaprasanga was written, the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga was written between 1909 and 1919. So more or less a span of 10 years, Swami Saradananda, or very shortly he is also referred to as Sharat Maharaj, based upon his pre-monastic name, Sharat Chandra Chakravarti, who was Sri Ramakrishna's direct disciple. So Sharat and Shashi, they were two cousin brothers. Both of them later on became monastic apostles or monastic direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Sharat was Swami Saradananda later on, and Shashi Bhushan Chakravarti, who later became Shashi Maharaj or Swami Ramakrishnananda. So both of them were very closely associated with Sri Ramakrishna for many years, and Swami Saradananda was also very closely associated with Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi, who was the wife and the divine consort of Sri Ramakrishna. So now coming to the attempts of writing biographies of Sri Ramakrishna before Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga, we find that there were many attempts. Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga was written between 1909 and 1919 over a period of 10 years. Before that, we find many people have attempted to write the biography of Sri Ramakrishna. We find that long before, during the very lifetime of Sri Ramakrishna, many people have already started to write life sketches of Sri Ramakrishna. Dr. Pratap Chandra Majumdar, who was a disciple and a close associate of Keshav Chandra Sen, he, in the Theistic Quarterly Review, is writing about Ramakrishna Paramhamsa. His article named Ramakrishna Paramhamsa is perhaps one of the earliest attempts to write about the life and message of Sri Ramakrishna. So we know that Pratap Chandra Majumdar, later on, when he came in contact with Swami Vivekananda in the West, turned out to be somewhat a different kind of a person who could not understand the greatness of Swami Vivekananda and came into different kinds of complexities later on. Later on, in 1876, we find another person, Girish Chandra Sen. He was also a close associate of Keshav Chandra Sen. He is writing a book, Paramhansher Ukti, that also in Bengali. So he was a journalist, Girish Chandra Sen. He is writing about Paramhansher Ukti, where he has recorded 184 sayings of Sri Ramakrishna. So he was also present when Sri Ramakrishna passed away during the cremation of Sri Ramakrishna's body in Kashipur Mahashmashan, or the crematorium. There, Girish Chandra Sen was also present. He later on, apart from the Paramahansa Ukti, that is the collection of some of the messages of Sri Ramakrishna, in 1886 he is writing a 21-page life of Sri Ramakrishna, which was later on again re-edited and republished in 1983 as Adi Kathamrita by a person named Shamal Basu. He published it from Ananya Prakashani. So since this was earlier the famous Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita was published, so this person Shamal Basu named this book renamed this book as Adi Kathamrita because of the publication date. It predates the Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita. However, so Girish Chandra Sen was writing the life of Sri Ramakrishna in 1886 in a 21-page short biography. Then we find that in 1890, another devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, Ramchandra Datta, who was also a very close devotee of Sri Ramakrishna and one of the first persons who could admire the greatness of Sri Ramakrishna. So Ramchandra Datta, he is writing his book named Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Devar Jivan Vrittanta. So Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Devar Jivan Vrittanta means the lives of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So he's writing it in 1890. Before that, in 1885, Ramchandra Datta has already published some collection of Sri Ramakrishna's saying in as Tattvasara in Bengali. And however, Ramchandra Datta's book had different factual errors, and it was corrected again in later on in 1890. Later on, and in 1945, Swami Madhavanandaji Maharaj, who was later on the president of the Ramakrishna order, he corrected some of the factual errors of Ramchandra Datta's book and published it from Sri Ramakrishna Yogadhyan in later on. So we find that the second Ramchandra Datta comes in the series of writing Sri Ramakrishna's biography after Girish Chandra Sen. Then we find in 1894, Akshay Kumar Sen, he is writing Sri Ramakrishna Puthi for the first time. He's publishing it in 1894. And by 1901, he has already published 4 volumes of the book. This Sri Ramakrishna Puthi is written in a poetic form, just like the traditional in a Bayar Chanda, with just like the Krittivasi Ramayana in Bengali. In that way, like the Panchali style of ancient Bengal, in that way he is composing the Sri Ramakrishna Puthi. This book was very much admired by none other than Swami Vivekananda himself. In some of his letters, he is writing about this book, and he is asking Shakchunni, or Akshay Kumar Sen, as he used to lovingly call him, to read this book in Sri Ramakrishna's birthday festival. And as a result, we find that this book is gradually coming into prominence. However, it is interesting to note that though Akshay Kumar Sen has composed this Sri Ramakrishna Puthi, and later on there were also some factual corrections which were required, and Akshay Kumar Sen, after reading Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, made some corrections in his later editions of Sri Ramakrishna Puthi. So we find that here is a book which is written before Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, but again re-edited and corrected after the publication of the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, which we are discussing. So later on, we find that another person in 1897, Satyacharan Mitra, he is writing a book known as Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So most of the part of the book is written by Mahimacharan Chakravarti, who was again a close associate of Sri Ramakrishna. So he is writing this based on what he has heard from Mahimacharan Chakravarti in 1897. In this series, next comes a very interesting book, which was written by Max Muller, Frederick Max Muller, Ramakrishna, His Life and Sayings, in 1898. This book had the patronage and inspirations of Swami Vivekananda himself. Swami Vivekananda met Max Muller, and he inspired him to write a biography of Sri Ramakrishna. And this book is interestingly, for this, when Max Muller requested for some material for writing this book, during that time, Swami Vivekananda requested Swami Saradananda himself for sending some information. Swami Saradananda says that initially he wrote a small biography of Sri Ramakrishna and sent it to Swami Vivekananda. So he says that except 1 or 2 words, Swami Vivekananda did not change much of it and gave it to Max Muller, who published it. And Swami Vivekananda wanted that the life and message of Sri Ramakrishna should come into prominence, and that is why, upon his request, Max Muller published the book. So even the book which we find as Max Muller's book was also largely written by Swami Saradananda in the background, with only one or two words which were revised by Swami Vivekananda himself. So then in this series we come to in 1901, where Bhuvan Chandra Mukhopadhyay is writing about Ramakrishna Charitamrita. Ramakrishna Charitamrita, where or the other name for that book is Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna Deve Jivani. So Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna Deve Jivani or Ramakrishna Charitamrita. This is an 89-page book, and later on we find that it was again published by Vibhas Chandra, but there were some factual errors in that book as well. So Bhuvan Chandra Mukhopadhyay's book had some factual errors. For example, in that book it was written that the Shorashi Puja, in which Sri Ramakrishna worshipped his wife, Holy Mother, Sri Sharada Devi, as the Divine Mother, took place in Jairambati, which was not correct. It actually took place in Kolkata in Dakshineshwar temple itself. So in between 1902 and 1910, the famous Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita was published by Sri Ma, whose pen name was Sri Ma, or in English it is written as M. So, just a second. So, the Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, which was, I hope it is very audible. The Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita was published between, say, 1901 and 1902 and 1910. Before that, when it was coming out in pamphlets, during that time, we find a letter written by Swami Vivekananda to Mahendranath Gupta, or N, who has written this book, and we find that it is highly admired by Swami Vivekananda himself, and he is greatly admiring it because the words of Sri Ramakrishna are in toto presented in the book Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita. However, we should remember that Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita is great for the collection of Sri Ramakrishna's sayings and also some of the facts and incidents in Sri Ramakrishna's life. But this Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita was not exactly a biography, but rather it is the day-to-day conversations of Sri Ramakrishna with many of the people who flocked around him in Dakshineshwar and in different parts of Kolkata. So in that way, Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita is famous or important for a collection of Sri Ramakrishna's words. But later on, we find that it was not exactly a biography. For that, we required some a different version. So in 1908, we find Suresh Chandra Datta. He is writing another book, Srimad Ramakrishna Paramahansa Deve Jivani Upadesh. So this was again a life and message of Sri Ramakrishna, which was written by Suresh Chandra Datta in 1908. And then we find a book written by Gurudas Burman. Gurudas Burman is writing a book, Sri Ramakrishna Charit, in 1910. So during this time, he is taking most of the material of for writing the book from direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, and he used to visit the Baranagar Mutt. And during that time, so it is interesting to note that Gurudas Varman was his pen name. He was actually Swami Vivekananda's disciple, Priyanath Singha, a very close associate of Swami Vivekananda, and he was also an artist and a close associate of Swami Vivekananda also. So he used to visit the Baranagar Mutt, and he collected different incidents about the master, that is Sri Ramakrishna, from direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. and he wrote the book. He also came in contact with Hriday Ram Mukhopadhyay, who was the nephew of Sri Ramakrishna, who also visited the Baranagar Mutt during that time, and who could very well imitate the way Sri Ramakrishna spoke, the how he behaved, everything. Since Hriday Ram had a very long association with Sri Ramakrishna, we will find that many of the books, including this Sri Ramakrishna Charit and Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, had drawn many of the incidents and facts from Hriday Ram Mukhopadhyay also. So, since he was one of the people who was uh, still there to supply different information from the day-to-day life of Sri Ramakrishna much before the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna visited Dakshineshwar. Now, in this scenario, in 1909, we find Swami Saradananda is embarking upon the project of writing this voluminous Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, which initially came out in various volumes. We will gradually come to the various volumes. But before we go into that, we should think how Swami Saradananda as a person was, how he was unknowingly getting prepared for writing this beautiful account of Sri Ramakrishna's life, not just not just presenting facts, but also analyzing them in the very modern context. So Swami Saradananda uh, was a very spiritual person, and initially we find that for writing a book, a person must also have a very wide educational exposure, and for that we find that he was a brilliant student. In 1883, when he's meeting Sri Ramakrishna, he was a student of the St. Xavier's College at that time, and we find that an account between Latu Maharaj or Swami Adbhutananda, one of the direct disciples of Swami Sri Ramakrishna, and Swami Sharadananda. So Swami Sharadananda used to read lots of books like many of the direct disciples in Baranagar Mutt. In Baranagar Mutt, we find that they did not have anything to eat. They did not have sufficient clothes to wear, but they had lots of books in their monastery, and books not just of the Indian scriptures, but also Western philosophy and history, and lots of books from different walks of life, from different varieties. So we find that they were all, most of them were avid readers, voracious readers, and Swami Saradananda was, of course, one of the most avid readers and voracious readers in the Baranagar Mutt. Seeing Swami Saradananda studying so much in the Baranagar Mutt, Swami Adbhutananda said that, brother, why do you study so much? You have left your educational life, you have left your material life, and you have left all your anything which generally studies are meant for acquiring a career or for different other name and fame, nothing for any position in the society. But why do you study so much? Because we know that Swami Adbhutananda was a shepherd boy coming from the rural districts of Chhapra in present-day Bihar, and he came to Sri Ramakrishna and almost an unlettered person, but later on, by the blessings and company and training of Sri Ramakrishna, he became one of the greatest spiritual luminaries. So he did not care for book reading, and he directly plunged into spiritual practices and reached the spiritual perfection. But apart from that, we find Swami Vivekananda, Swami Turiyananda, Swami Sharadananda, Swami Abhedananda, and many of the direct disciples were reading a lot in the Baranagar monastery. So during that time, we find a letter written by Swami Vivekananda to Pramadadas Mitra, where he's telling that if you can kindly send us a copy of the Ashtadhyayi of Panini, the Vyakarana, the Sanskrit grammar book, and he's writing that here we have my brothers who are there. They are always up and doing, and if they hold on to something, they will not leave until and unless they see the end of it. So if you send the book will not go into vain. They will surely pick up the entire book and will see the end of it. So it was not just a casual attempt on the parts of the monastic disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, but a serious attempt to study. So this culture of study, this culture of reading books was also shaping Swami Saradananda from the very early days, including his very good academic background in St. Xavier's College, and later on we find that in Baranagar Mutt also he is reading a lot. And during that time, when Latu Maharaj asked Sharat Maharaj or Swami Saradananda, why do you read a lot? So he said that, see, so Latu Maharaj or Adbhutanandaji said that Sri Ramakrishna, we find, did not read so much, yet he knew so much. So when Latu Maharaj asked, Sharat Maharaj said that if we don't read, how we will know everything about all these things? Then Latu Maharaj or Adbhutanandaji said that, see, we did not see our master Sri Ramakrishna reading a lot. Then Sharat Maharaj or Sharadanandaji said that his case was different, but he never discouraged people who were to teach the world to study. So he said that for killing oneself, a mere blade was enough, but for killing others, swords and all these kind of weapons are required. So this was Sri Ramakrishna's words. So he was of the opinion that if one needs God realization for himself, he can do it easily by simply plunging into deep spiritual practices. But if he has to become a world teacher, if he has to become an acharya, so this is the word which is generally used, acharya or lokashikshak, who will teach others. For teaching others, one should be equipped with different kinds of academic or academic foundations, so that he can teach others. So for one's own liberation, not much reading may be required. Simple faith in the Guru and spiritual practices will be sufficient. But for teaching others, one has to be equipped with all kinds of factual knowledge and theoretical knowledge, and also book learning is very much required for acharyas. So that is why we find that most of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna were avid readers and they were studying a lot. So this background of study was shaping Swami Saradananda for writing the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, which will be one of the very analytical biographies, which will be quite deeply admired in the academic circle later on. One more thing which we find, that after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna between 1890 and 1895, we find that Swami Saradananda is moving extensively through different parts of India as a part of his mendicancy, as Paribrajakas, wandering monk life, and he is visiting different pilgrimage centers. So we can ascertain that this direct exposure to India and her spiritual heritage was also shaping Swami Saradananda, just like Swami Vivekananda, who was also, as Sister Nivedita has pointed out, that three factors has molded Swami Vivekananda: the Guru, the Ganga, and the Gita. That is the teacher, Sri Ramakrishna. The Ganga means the land of India, moving across the land of India, and Gita or the scriptures. So just like that, Swami Saradananda also, we find that he has come into close contact with Sri Ramakrishna, who forms this, who is the subject matter for this book. He has come across the entire Indian spectrum of spiritual life while moving across India at different parts, especially from 1890 to 1895. In addition to this, he also was sent to the West in 1896 by Swami Vivekananda. This Western exposure and going to the US and other parts of the West, was also giving him a direct knowledge about the international scenario, because Sri Ramakrishna was never a local personality, and his message was rightly understood by Swami Vivekananda as very much relevant for the entire international community. So this international exposure of Swami Saradananda in 1896 when he went to the West was also very important. And later on we see that he's also helping in the book written by Max Muller. Later on, after 2 years, he returned to India after when he was called back by Swami Vivekananda, and he was made the General Secretary of the Ramakrishna Order, which was officially formed during that time. So he was the first executive head or the General Secretary of the Ramakrishna Mutt or the Ramakrishna Order made by Swami Vivekananda. While he was during this time, Swami Vivekananda started a Bengali magazine which was named as Udbodhan, which is still currently being published uninterrupted for more than 125 years. So during that time, we find that the first editor of Udbodhan was Swami Tribunatitanandaji Maharaj, who was again a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. So Swami Tribunatitananda, he started the Udbodhan with lots of hard work and penance, but later on he was sent by Swami Vivekananda to the West, and in his place Swami Sharadananda took up the charge of Udbodhan magazine also. This again brought him in direct contact with publications, where books can be published, where articles were sent by different people. And during this time, Swami Saradananda experienced that many people were sending live stories and articles about Sri Ramakrishna, which were full of factual errors and lots of misinterpretations during that time. So this gradually brought Swami Saradananda to the need that something has to be done. Very good, very authentic, very detailed, and very up-to-date lives of Swami Sri Ramakrishna needs to be written. During this time, however, though these were shaping Swami Saradananda as the author of Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, in the meantime, we also find that he is also actively into publication of a Hindi magazine, Samanvay, which was published for a short time during that time. But the most important preparation which was required for writing a book like Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga was the spiritual preparation of Swami Saradananda. So he was always of the opinion, many people had requested him earlier also for writing the book. We know that during Swami Vivekananda's lifetime, many people had requested Swami Vivekananda to write a biography of Sri Ramakrishna. But Swami Vivekananda declined again and again, and he was so humble and he felt that Sri Ramakrishna is so great, and that Swami Vivekananda felt that if he is going to write, he will not be able to do that. So his Bengali proverb was "Ship Gorte Banur." So this type of things will happen where it will not happen as it should be. So Swami Vivekananda always said that you ask me to crumble down the mountains, you ask me to drink up the ocean, I can do that, but don't ask me to write a life of Sri Ramakrishna, because that is, he is so great, he is so immense in his dimensions, he is so powerful in his applications that it cannot be contained into a book written by me. So he always felt like this. However, we know that Swami Vivekananda did write different hymns, and in his different letters, we find that his comments about Sri Ramakrishna can also be taken to be an account about Sri Ramakrishna's life. However, we will find that a very special article is written by Swami Vivekananda, Hinduism and Sri Ramakrishna, Hindu Dharma Sri Ramakrishna, which was so wonderful that Swami Saradananda, when he published the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, he included this article by Swami Vivekananda, that is Hindu Dharma Sri Ramakrishna, in as a prelude to his book. He included that in his book. And this was also required because amongst the many reasons why he is writing this book, we will find that there were, if we find that there are about, the first reason why Swami Saradananda went into writing this Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga is that there were factual errors in many books or articles which were being written by different people about Sri Ramakrishna. So a very authentic and correct version of different incidents and correct interpretation of the message of Sri Ramakrishna needs to be made. So this was one of the primary reason for writing Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga. Second reason which was there is that there was a misunderstanding even amongst close associates of Sri Ramakrishna, that Sri Ramakrishna came to preach bhakti. Sri Ramakrishna came to preach a life of inner recluse, that is of japa, dhyana, meditation, repetition of God's name, and calling upon God in solace, like that. So this was the idea of many of the devotees and associates of Sri Ramakrishna. And many had opposed Swami Vivekananda's view that Sri Ramakrishna also came for the good of the world and worked like hospitals, schools, colleges, and different service activities were directly connected with Sri Ramakrishna's advent and Sri Ramakrishna's message. Even close associates of Sri Ramakrishna, like Mahendranath Gupta or Mastamashai or M, who wrote the Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, or the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna as it was translated into English later on, we find that even that is, even Mahendranath Gupta had doubts regarding this, that this kind of work, the work culture or the service activities, which was forming the foundations of the newly formed Ramakrishna order or the Ramakrishna mission, was inspired by Swami Vivekananda and was not inspired by Sri Ramakrishna directly. So he was of the opinion that first one needs to realize God and then one needs to go for any kind of service. So Mahendranath Gupta had this type of attitude or idea at that point of time. Incidentally, during this time, an interesting incident happened, that in Varanasi, some of the monastic disciples of Swami Vivekananda had started a hospital which was known as the Varanasi Sevashrama, Ramakrishna Mission Sevashrama, or the home of service, where the patients or the sick people were treated as the Lord Himself, and they were served, cleaned, and treated from different diseases during that time. And this was taken up as a mode of sadhana, as a mode of worship, and this was being done in a very worshipful attitude in that hospital. During that time, in Holy Mother, Sri Sarada Devi, who was the divine consort of Sri Ramakrishna, she visited the Varanasi home of service during that time. Coincidentally, during that time, Mahendranath Gupta or Master Mashai or M, who the recorder of Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, was also present during that time. Swami Brahmananda, Swami Suryananda, and many other direct disciples were also there. The Holy Mother was shown the hospital in a very detailed way. And after that, she was highly delighted and very much pleased to see the spirit of worship in service. And she was very much pleased how the patients were served as God Himself. And she had donated a 10 rupee note for the hospital at that time. Upon seeing her, and she was asked, how did she feel? So she said that Holy Mother, Sri Sharada Devi said that, oh, I am very much delighted, and I am seeing that that Sri Ramakrishna is very much residing in this place, and Mother Lakshmi is also very much residing in this place. So, upon hearing this, the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna uh, sarcastically or jokingly asked Mahendranath Gupta, "Now what do you say? Now what do you say about these service activities? Means, is it Sri Ramakrishna's message, or is it later on addition by Swami Vivekananda?" So then he said, "Now I have nothing to say, because since the mother has endorsed, so Mother Sharada Devi was such an authority that her words were taken to be Sri Ramakrishna's words directly." So then onwards, he gave up the objection that service activities and sadhana or spiritual practices are not different. So service, work, and worship are equivalent in that way. Work done in the spirit of worship is very much equivalent. So this type of attitude was very much prevalent, that Sri Ramakrishna's message was entirely for an indrawn lifestyle and never for work or service in this way. So to correct this version, to correct this idea, Swami Saradananda also wrote the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, where he will clear the doubt that it was Sri Ramakrishna's idea of Bhavamukha, Sri Ramakrishna's idea of Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva, which was given a great shape by Swami Vivekananda. So it was originally Sri Ramakrishna's idea. How Sri Ramakrishna did not just mean closing your eyes, but it also meant, in Sri Ramakrishna's own words. So Mahendranath Gupta has written it in his own words, in Sri Ramakrishna's words in Kathamrita, but he did not realize the import of it at that time, where Sri Ramakrishna is telling that if I close my eyes, God is there, and if I open, will he vanish? Will he not be there? It means that when we close our eyes, we find God is residing in our heart, and as the soul or as the self or as the indwelling deity. But if I open the eyes, I see the world. So will God vanish as soon as I open the eyes? No, he will not vanish. The God whom I am seeing by closing the eyes is very much present in all living beings, and service to man is service to God. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva, serving man as God, is very much Sri Ramakrishna's message as well. So this was perhaps one more important reason which needed to be clarified by Swami Saradananda by writing a correct version and correct interpretation of Sri Ramakrishna's message in the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga. The third reason why Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga was written by Swami Saradananda was perhaps that some people started to think that Sri Ramakrishna was just a sudden person who has appeared in Kolkata or in the scenario, and he was not directly connected with the ancient Indian civilization. Many had this opinion that he was a different kind of person. Yes, he was different, but he was deeply rooted in the ancient Indian way of life. So, rooted in the past, he was blooming into the future. So, that is why Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, written by Swami Saradananda, had deeply tried to connect Sri Ramakrishna's message, his advent, his divinity, with the ancient Indian tradition, with the ancient Indian scriptures of the Vedanta, of the Tantras, of the Puranas, and connected Sri Ramakrishna with the ancient Indian civilization, which was also highly pointed out by Swami Vivekananda. That is why he incorporated the article Hindu Dharma O Sri Ramakrishna, or Hinduism and Sri Ramakrishna, as a prelude to his Lila Prasanga. So Swami Vivekananda's article Hindu Dharma O Sri Ramakrishna was added to clarify the point that yes, Sri Ramakrishna was not just a new or a different or a crafted personality into the Indian society, but he was very much a natural growth of the ancient Indian culture, ancient Indian heritage. The fourth reason why Swami Saradananda has written the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga is perhaps a different kind of a reason, which is which may not be the spiritual or social reason, as we have said in the earlier points. The fourth reason was quite empathetic and touching. Holy Mother, Sri Sarada Devi, did not have a place of her own to stay in Kolkata. So Swami Vivekananda, right from his days in the West, is writing that I am going from one place to another to make a place for Mother. I'm lecturing in the cold in the West in USA, in America, just to make a proper house for the Holy Mother. And in many of his letters, he's inquiring about the house for Mother, where a residence of her own, where she could stay on her own. Because whenever Holy Mother Sri Sharada Devi came to Kolkata, she was always residing in some hired houses, or she was residing in some devotee's house. So Swami Vivekananda and many others felt that Mother should have a house of her own. So during that time, in 1909, during that time, Swami Saradananda took lots of pain, and he loaned lots of money to purchase a small house and a piece of land for completing the house of Holy Mother, which is today's Holy Mother's house at Bagh Bazaar, which is now also the Udbodhan Karyalaya, or where the Bengali publication house is currently located. So for building that, he had an expenditure of about 11,000 rupees in those days. And for giving the loan, he started writing the book Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, so that he can get some money back for meeting the loan. So this was also another very touching reason why Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga was written. So it was as if for making a house for Mother, he was trying to collect some fund and to pay back the loan which he has taken for a long time. So in this way, we find that there were many reasons why Swami Saradananda wrote the book Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga. And for that, he always felt that a book like this cannot be written just by a human will. So many people requested him. And Swami Vivekananda also said in one place that Sharat will write. Swami Vivekananda himself did not want to write, but he felt that Sharat can write, Sharat will write it. So during this time, Swami Saradananda always felt that if it cannot be a mental fancy, it cannot be a mental wish that I will write a biography of Sri Ramakrishna and it will be written and it will be sold in the market. He did not write in that attitude. He always felt that if it is only God's wish, if it is the wish of Sri Ramakrishna, only then he can write it. So he wrote it entirely as an instrument in the hands of Sri Ramakrishna. This was proved by the incompleteness of Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, because we find that Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga at the end has suddenly ended, because in the last part of Sri Ramakrishna's life was written in only a few chapters, and later on the book abruptly ended. Many people asked Swami Sharadananda to complete the rest part of the book, but he was always telling that he wrote the book by getting energy from the Holy Mother, Sri Sharada Devi, who was the Divine Mother herself. So when the Mother was still living in her physical body, he felt that he is deriving energy from Mother and he is writing the book. Later on, when Mother passed away, his health also deteriorated. And when Swami Brahmananda also passed away, he felt that no more energy he is getting for writing the book. So he always felt that the book was not written by him, but it was written by Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and their blessings. So It was not just an ordinary book by an ordinary author writing just for expressing his wisdom or mental uh, fancies and fascinations, but it was a book which was written by divine providence, by divine will. So, in this way, we find that this book, and one more very interesting feature of the book is that Swami Sharadananda prepared himself spiritually, not just intellectually by reading different books, but he did intense japa, dhyana, meditation, and intense service to human beings, which was the culmination, the combination of the four yogas as symbolized into the emblem of Ramakrishna mission by Swami Vivekananda. We find that Swami Saradananda was a complete balance of jnana, bhakti, karma, and dhyana. That is the four yogas. Jnana yoga, or the path of knowledge; bhakti yoga, the path of devotion; karma yoga, the path of selfless action; and dhyana yoga or raja yoga, the path of meditation. We find a beautiful combination in Swami Saradananda, a balanced combination. So by that, he was getting prepared for writing Sri Ramakrishna's life. Swami Vivekananda was of the opinion that if one's life is not molded in a wonderful harmony of the four yogas, jnana, bhakti, karma, and dhyana, then his life has not been molded into the model of Sri Ramakrishna. But Swami Saradananda's life was modeled in that way. That is why we find that he was the right person to write the biography of Sri Ramakrishna. Moreover, whenever he has written anything, so later on he had confided to many people regarding two things. One is initially, before writing the Lilaprasanga, somebody asked him to, there was an incident that somebody has written some couplets about Sri Ramakrishna. He showed it to Swami Saradananda, and he said, see, you cannot write all this until and unless you get the Adesh, or the direct order from Sri Ramakrishna, or direct order from God. You cannot write it. Later on, when Swami Saradananda started to write the Leela Prasanga, that very person asked him, now have you received the order? Then he hinted towards that. And yes, he got that order, and then only he started to write the book. One more interesting fact about Swami Saradananda and his book is that later on he said that he has never written anything in Sri Ramakrishna Lila Prasanga which he himself has not realized. So all the states of Sri Ramakrishna which has been recorded in Sri Ramakrishna Lila Prasanga was directly experienced by Swami Saradananda. Only then he wrote it. So this was his conviction that he has not written anything without direct experience. So it was not just imagination, it was not just a theoretical study, it was not just a review book, it was entirely an experiential account of Sri Ramakrishna's life. So as if he is not just meditating or reading Sri Ramakrishna and writing him, but he was directly experiencing Sri Ramakrishna and putting his experience into words. So this was special, where very rarely do we find a person experiencing the spiritual states of the gigantic spiritual masters and writing it themselves. So this was special. Very difficult phases of Sri Ramakrishna sadhana, like the Tantra sadhana, was there. So even for writing that, Swami Sharadananda took Tantrika Diksha with the permission of Holy Mother and Swami Brahmananda, and he practiced it under the tutelage of Ishwar Chandra Chakravarti, his uncle. And so he directly experienced each and every facet of Sri Ramakrishna's sadhana, and then only he put it onto his pen and he penned it down in the book Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga. So in this way, and during when he was writing this, we find that he was so much absorbed in writing this book that once many young boys were making lots of noise in Udbodhan, the Holy Mother's house. The mother was upstairs, and Golapma, a woman devotee of Sri Ramakrishna and a close associate of Holy Mother, she started scolding the boys and told them, see, Sharat or Swami Sharadananda is there. below and you are making so much noise. Hearing to this, Swami Sharadananda said to Golapma that, Golapma, why do you give your ears to those noise? I'm writing my book, I'm not bothered about it. So he was so much absorbed in writing the Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga that no noise or no disturbance could actually disturb him. He was completely merged and absorbed into writing the book Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga. He used to sit in one position for more than 5 or 6 hours writing the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga. He was completely, as if it was a sadhana, it was a meditation. He was completely lost in the world of Sri Ramakrishna's experience, Sri Ramakrishna's significance, Sri Ramakrishna's message, that he never bothered about the external world, whether there was noise, whether there was whether during that time we know that there was no fans, there was no ACs, and the heat was always there in Kolkata during that time. But Swami Sharadananda was such a person that he was completely absorbed in writing the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga. So in today's discussion, we tried to give you an overview of how the Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, the book, came into being, and what was the background, what were the previous attempts, what was the prerequisites which gave rise to this book. Today we spoke about the historical background of Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga, and we spoke about the author of this book, the extraordinary author of this book, Swami Sharadananda. Gradually, in our continuous discussions in our series, we will try to gradually go into the book itself and find out what was there in that book. And we will try to find the extraordinary significance of Sri Ramakrishna's life and how it can help any people anywhere, in any country, in any of any denomination. We will try to see the universal significance of Sri Ramakrishna, and we will try to go into the various facets of the book as well. So today, I thank you all for giving me an opportunity to introduce the famous book Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga and its author Swami Sharadananda to you. And later on, we will move to the main center of attraction of the book, that is Sri Ramakrishna and his wonderful life and message. Thank you all. Namaskars. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanams.
What a wonderful discourse. Thank you. It was wonderful. Was it that Gurudas Burman and Pionath Singh was the same person that you mentioned? That part, that thing.
Yes, yes. It was his pen name. Pen name. Gurudas Burman was his pen name.
So he was disciple of Swamiji.
So he's a friend also of Swamiji. We find that there is a conversation between Priyanath Sinha and Swami Vivekananda. So his pen name was Gurudas Burman.
He saw Sri Ramakrishna? He met Sri Ramakrishna?
Maybe he did not see him directly, or maybe he has fractionally seen him in some way, but he mostly collected his information from others, from direct disciples, because he was closely associated with Swami Vivekananda, so he was also closely associated with the Varanagar Math, and he also saw Hridaya Ram Mukhopadhyay also. But he did not come into very close contact with Sri Ramakrishna, as far as I know. So he mainly came in contact with the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna and Hridaya Ram Mukhopadhyay. So, and Mahendranath Datta, who was Swami Vivekananda's younger brother, he has seen Sri Ramakrishna directly, and he has also written one book, Sri Ramakrishna Dever Jibaner Ghatanabali. Like this one book is there, where he gives some of the accounts of which he himself has seen, and also which from others he has received. So that book is also there, but maybe that was written much later than Lilaprasanga.
Was the Suresh Chandra Datta, was he also one of the Dattas, like Suresh Chandra Datta?
No, I don't think so. Sureshchandra Datta, maybe he is also collecting his information from others. He directly he may not have seen. There were many Suresh and Surens associated with Sri Ramakrishna, but Suresh Chandra Datta, as far as I remember, maybe he directly did not see Sri Ramakrishna. I will see whether he has directly seen Sri Ramakrishna, or I'll try to clarify that.
Maharaj, it was so much wonderful, so wonderful. Anyone else has any comment, question, you may please. Otherwise, we'll end.
It was a lovely session. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Today's discussion may be a little bit informative. We'll try to go into the implication part later on. Today's was a historical background. Gradually, we'll try to go into the inner significance of the book as well.
Thank you, Maharaj, for now.
Okay.
We'll end
Thank
that.
you very much.